It hit me like a ton of bricks when I learned that my mother and my fiancé had been secretly involved for years, right up until the moment my younger brother was born. My fiancé, 25, and I, 24, had been inseparable since we were teenagers, 17 and 18 years old. From the start, he had this charm that seemed almost too good to be true. He was kind, handsome, funny, everything anyone could want. People used to tell me how lucky I was, how I had the whole package. And honestly, I thought I was the luckiest. He treated me with nothing but love and respect, so learning all of this now? It's nothing short of shocking. My relationship with my mom has always been close. It was just the two of us against the world after my dad died when I was little. We'd joke around, saying we were like Rory and Lorelai from Gilmore Girls, that kind of bond. My mom, though, dated off and on over the years. Nothing too serious, mostly just the early dating phase before things fizzled out. But then, about 4 years ago, my mom told me she was pregnant. At 42. To say I was surprised would be an understatement. She hadn't expected it herself. She never thought she could have children at that age. She had me young, after all. And as much as she seemed worried, I made sure to reassure her, reminding her that I'd be there for her, just as she had always been there for me. She eventually had my brother, and he's now 3. I've always had a special connection with him, helping care for him since the moment he was born. I love him so much. My fiancé, too, was always so helpful. We'd take him out for ice cream, go to the playground, spend time at the pool during summer. But there was never anything strange about it. He was just my boyfriend, spending time with me and my little brother. Then came the moment I found out. My fiancé and I had been living together since we finished college. He wasn't home one night, hanging out with friends while I decided to stay in and relax on the couch. I was binge-watching a series on Netflix when my laptop died, and I was too lazy to get the charger. So, I grabbed his iPad. I knew the password, though I'd never used it before. When I opened it up, a flood of notifications greeted me. Clearly, he hadn't been using it for a while. I didn't think much of it at first, but curiosity got the better of me, so I started looking through the messages. And then, there it was. My mom's name wasn't saved under her own number, but I recognized it right away. And what I read next made my blood run cold. She was telling him she felt guilty, that I should know. And he? He said he felt guilty too, but couldn't bear to lose me. They messed it all up, he admitted. Then, my mom said something that hit me like a slap. It was unfair for my brother to never know his dad. She asked if he could live with it, being around his son, acting like a brother-in-law, not a father. I just couldn't believe it. I broke down right there. The messages were filled with guilt and confusion, but there were no explanations, just photos of my brother as a newborn, my mom pregnant, and a growing album of my brother's milestones. I couldn't handle it anymore. I cried for what felt like hours, waiting for him to come home. When he did, around 11:30 p.m., I handed him the iPad, with the conversation still open. The color drained from his face. I asked him, my voice shaking, for an explanation, when, how, why. He didn't want to answer at first, but eventually, he knew he had to. He told me everything. Apparently, a few years back, when I went on a girls' trip, my fiancé and my mom had dinner together. This was normal. He'd been part of the family for so long that they'd shared meals before, whether I was busy or out with friends. But somehow, after dinner, things escalated. One thing led to another, and they slept together. They felt guilty, sure, but not guilty enough. They slept together 2, maybe 3 more times, using the excuse of meeting up to figure out how to tell me. When my mom got pregnant, they stopped, thinking it would be best to just keep it all a secret. My fiancé didn't want to lose me, and my mom didn't want to lose her daughter. So here we are, 2 of the most disgusting people I could have ever imagined. I ended the engagement right then and there, told my mom to never speak to me again, and moved in with a friend. I feel horrible for my brother. I love him so much, but being around him now just hurts too much. He's a constant reminder of everything, how my dreams of the future with my fiancé were shattered. We had talked about having kids together for years, and now, I can't even look at him without feeling sick. I was taking care of his child, my brother, all while living this lie. Every moment now feels tainted. I just want to throw up. The comments on the post were mostly supportive, though a few shared their own stories of cutting off their parents, and even a couple of people recounted experiences of spouses sleeping with parents. How is this even a thing? People are insane. Update: as I feared, I was confronted this week. I knew it was coming, but I thought I had more time. My ex was the one who found me. Yesterday, Wednesday, after work, as I walked toward my car, I saw him lingering nearby. For a moment, I thought about running. I won't lie. But somehow, in that moment, I felt strong enough to face it. I knew it had to be dealt with. The last thing I wanted was to let it hang over me any longer. He asked if we could talk. I stood there, in the middle of the street, feeling the weight of everything that had just happened. It wasn't crowded, but not entirely empty either, just enough space between us to make the moment feel real, yet surreal. As he stood there, apologizing over and over, his words seemed to blur into one long, repetitive noise. "I'm sorry," he said again and again. "I messed up. You deserve better." I nodded, barely able to process it, but agreeing all the same. His voice cracked with guilt, yet I couldn't let myself believe the sincerity behind it. He said he loved me, and still did. But I couldn't understand why he thought that would change anything. He said he understood why I wouldn't want anything to do with him, and then, as if to justify his actions, he told me he was going to therapy. Alone or together, he would work to win my trust back. I shook my head, coldly telling him it wasn't possible. Too much had happened, too much damage had been done. I don't know if I sounded calm, but inside, I was unraveling. My heart felt like it was going to explode with the weight of it all, the betrayal seeping deeper into my soul. He kept talking, his voice low, as he explained that he was in the process of getting custody of my brother. He wanted to be a father to him, he said. He didn't want anything to do with my mom anymore, it had been a stupid mistake. But 5 times? Was that just one mistake after another? I asked if he'd ever cheated with someone else. He hesitated, but then said no. It almost sounded honest. Almost. I couldn't bring myself to trust him, but there was a part of me that wondered if he truly knew why he'd done it. Why he'd let it go this far. He told me after that first time, he panicked. He was afraid of losing me, so he kept the secret, thinking maybe one day it would just stay hidden. But did he seriously think he could hide this forever? That everything would remain as it was, untouched? The question burned in me, did my mom seduce him? He answered, it was mutual. My stomach churned, nausea rising in my throat. How could they both be so casual about this? I wanted to scream. I couldn't even process it anymore. I asked if he'd been in contact with her since I found out, and, of course, he had. But it was all about my brother. He didn't go into details, and I didn't push. I didn't need more details. He mentioned he had told his parents just the day before or maybe 2 days ago. They were upset, but relieved that they could start building a relationship with my brother, their grandchild. My head spun. How could this be happening? Why was this my reality? I felt a sickening blow to my stomach. The confusion, the anger, the betrayal, it was all too much. My mind raced, but nothing could make sense of it. I asked him, in disbelief, if he had thought about this custody thing before I found out. He said no, but finding out was the push he needed to get his life together. Great! So, I helped him get his act together, and now he was working to fix the mess he created. But what about me? I had lost everything. My world was shattered, and he would still have his parents, my brother, his life. He would move on, and I was left holding the pieces of my heart. I hated him. The rage inside me was palpable, every part of me screaming to escape this nightmare. We parted ways that night, not on good terms. I told him, flatly, to never come near me again. I was done. He tried to pull at my emotions, asking to still see my brother. That I was important to him. He tried to guilt-trip me, and for a moment, it worked. But I still couldn't bring myself to do it. I was furious. The thought of facing my mom made me sick to my core. She was the last person I ever expected this from, and I wasn't sure I could handle seeing her now, not with all the anger boiling inside me. It would have been too much. I needed time, space, before I could even think about that confrontation. The next day, I did what I had been putting off. I reached out. I posted to my family's group, laying bare the truth. I want to communicate to you all that my wedding with X's name has been permanently canceled, I wrote. I found out that for the past few years, my ex and mom have been in a sexual relationship, which resulted in the birth of my little brother. I had no idea, and I just found out last week. I won't be having any relationship with either of them for obvious reasons. The words felt harsh, but they were the truth. I added a screenshot of the conversation I had with my mom once I found out, as well as her last message before I blocked her. I didn't open it until I was ready to share. I didn't want to be swayed by her words. I knew it would be a mess, and it was. My phone blew up all day with texts and calls from family. Most of them were supportive, some were shocked, but a few were neutral, even skeptical. They couldn't believe it. My grandparents were in that maybe you misunderstood camp, which wasn't a surprise. My mom had always been a good mom to me. She'd always been there. There were no red flags. But now, I didn't know who she was anymore. I was moving in with a cousin, someone I considered a sister. I hadn't yet reached out to her, but I knew I needed to. I couldn't do this alone. The fallout was just beginning. I had kept quiet before, but once she knew, I knew the whole world would. It felt like there was no way to keep it from spilling out. So, I went to my friend's place. My cousin, completely heartbroken for me, offered to take me in with her and her 2 kids until I could get back on my feet. I agreed. It's not perfect, but it's a lifeline right now. I'm moving in with her next week, but there's a fear lingering in the back of my mind. Will this make it easier for my mom to find me? I can't stay with my friend forever. But what choice do I have? As soon as I settled in, I posted something similar to what I shared with my family, but this time for my friends. We share a lot of mutual friends, from high school to local university acquaintances, and I made a private story on Instagram, tagging most of them. Within hours, it blew up in our group. One of my friends even found my Reddit post and sent it to me, asking if it was me. I confirmed. They were just as shocked as everyone else. They couldn't believe my ex would do something like this, given how crazy he was about me. Yeah, well, turns out his version of crazy went way too far. The friend group? It's split. Some are fully on my side, standing by me through this wreckage, while others aren't convinced. They still think there's more to the story. I told everyone who reached out, if you don't believe me, ask him if he's asking for custody of my little brother. That seemed to quiet them down, at least for now. My ex, in the meantime, deleted all his social media accounts. And, of course, his parents called me. I saw that coming. They were kind, apologetic, almost too apologetic. You could feel the weight of their disappointment in every word. But one thing was clear, despite all that, they were standing by their son. They didn't want anything to do with my mom, which I get, but with everything that's going on with my brother, I'm not sure how that will play out. They tried to tell me what my ex was up to, and I shut them down right away. I don't want to hear any more details. I don't want their information. I just want distance. I made it clear, don't reach out again for a while, especially if you're planning on supporting him. Right after the blast, my ex and mom lost it. They bombarded me with calls, messages, anything they could do to get in touch. My friend blocked them, but they were relentless, reaching out from different numbers. I had no choice but to silence my phone and ignore them all. Then, my mom sent me a long text from a different number. That message was bizarre. She said I was being cruel, that she didn't think she raised me to act like this. She said she thought we had a better relationship than me airing all of this without talking to her first. She told me I didn't have the whole story, but there was one thing she mentioned that threw me completely off. She said the reason she slept with my ex was because he reminded her of my dad. She claimed it was grief, that she didn't mean to use him to heal her pain, but she just wasn't strong enough. I don't even know what to make of that. What did she mean? Did she think my ex looked like my dad, or was it something about their personalities? I've seen photos of my dad, and sure, my ex is brown, dirty blonde hair, blue eyes, and pale skin, but that's not exactly unique. It's not like they're twins or anything. I just don't get it. I wasn't expecting any of this, especially not from her. That text, talk about a curveball. I've been holding up, at least better than I was. I don't cry every hour now, but I still feel like I'm living in a nightmare. This whole thing just doesn't feel real. It's like I'm waiting to wake up and everything will go back to normal. But it won't. I know that. And I need to start planning my future. I need to think about applying for jobs, maybe even abroad. My cousin's been really supportive, but I know this won't be easy. I might ask for a few days off from work to clear my head, maybe do some serious research, but right now, it feels like I'm stuck, frozen in place. I'm scared. But I can't stay like this. I need to move. I have to. The editor's note pointed out some funny comments from the thread. One commenter said my mom's reaction was hilarious, like I thought I raised you better. Another commenter, with some sass, said, my petty ass would be sending her that. Someone else pointed out the irony of my mom blaming me for airing dirty laundry when she's the one who started it all. The best one was, the laundry wouldn't be dirty if you hadn't slept with my boyfriend. It's amazing how people can still find humor in something like this. But for me, this isn't funny. It's just painful. Yet, somehow, I feel like I have to keep going. For me, for my brother, for everything.